It began with a whisper, old grievances, ancient hatreds resurfacing in Yugoslavia, 1991. The country, a patchwork of Serbs, Croats, Bosniaks, Slovenes, Macedonians, and Montenegrins, was unraveling. The dream of unity was dying, replaced by a roar of nationalism. What followed was Europe's bloodiest conflict since World War II. Neighbors became enemies. Violence was intimate and cruel. Ethnic cleansing became a chilling new term as campaigns of terror and murder sought to create pure states. Yugoslavia's fall is a tragedy, a warning about the fragility of peace and the dangers of nationalism. Ordinary people, once friends, were driven to brutality. Survivors recall the moment their world collapsed. Cities like Sarajevo and Vukovar became symbols of devastation. This is the untold story of Europe's last great war, a journey into a conflict that tore a nation apart. It's a chronicle of political failure, international indifference, and the human cost when society's bonds are violently broken. The world said never again after the Holocaust, but it happened again, in Bosnia, Croatia, Kosovo. To understand why, we must return to the birth of Yugoslavia, a dream that ended in nightmare. Let's begin at the beginning. Yugoslavia was born from the ashes of World War I, a kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, fragile from the start. World War II shattered it, but out of the chaos, Tito emerged, uniting the country under a socialist federation. 6 republics, 2 provinces, and a policy of brotherhood and unity held the nation together. Nationalism was suppressed, a shared Yugoslav identity was promoted. For a generation, it seemed to work people intermarried, shared language, and cheered for the same teams. Tito's leadership and a strong security apparatus kept old tensions at bay. But beneath the surface, historical grievances simmered, waiting for their moment. When Tito died, the experiment's fragility would be exposed. Tito's death in 1980 left a power vacuum. The rotating presidency led to paralysis. Economic crisis hit. Debt soared, inflation raged, and unemployment spread. As living standards fell, people turned to ethnic and religious identities for security. Nationalism surged, fueled by politicians like Slobodan Milosevic, who embraced Serbian victimhood and stoked old fears. Milosevic's rhetoric ignited Serbian nationalism, soon met by similar movements in Croatia and Slovenia. Franjo Tudman rose in Croatia, reviving nationalist symbols. Slovenian leaders spoke of secession. The republics stopped negotiating, preparing for breakup. The dream of unity was dead. The political climate grew toxic, dominated by historical grievances. The stage was set for war. Slovenia was the first to break away in June 1991, declaring independence after a referendum. The Yugoslav army responded, but the 10-day war was brief. Slovenia's unity and lack of ethnic divisions led to a quick victory. Croatia's path was bloodier. With a large Serb minority, conflict erupted as Serb rebels, backed by the Yugoslav army, declared their own republic. The Croatian War of Independence became a brutal struggle. Cities like Dubrovnik and Vukovar were besieged and destroyed. Atrocities were committed by all sides. The JNA openly supported the Serb cause. The war created hundreds of thousands of refugees and deepened ethnic hatred. Slovenia's exit was swift. Croatia's was a drawn-out tragedy. The violence in Croatia foreshadowed even greater horrors to come. The world watched as Yugoslavia descended into chaos. The next flashpoint would be Bosnia. Bosnia, the heart of multi-ethnic Yugoslavia, declared independence in 1992. Bosnian Serbs, backed by Milosevic, rejected this and launched a campaign to carve out their own territory. The war targeted civilians. Sarajevo endured the longest siege in modern history. Ethnic cleansing swept the country. Concentration camps and mass graves appeared. Mosques and churches were destroyed to erase non-Serb presence. The horror peaked at Srebrenica in 1995, where over 8,000 Bosniak men and boys were executed. It was genocide, the worst atrocity in Europe since World War II. The international community's inaction allowed the violence to escalate. Bosnia's war shattered the idea of coexistence. The world could no longer look away. The world's response was slow. UN peacekeepers were powerless, and arms embargoes favored the aggressors. Images of suffering filled the news, but action was delayed. Only after Srebrenica and a deadly Sarajevo market attack did NATO intervene, launching airstrikes against Bosnian Serb forces. A ground offensive shifted the balance, forcing leaders to negotiate the Dayton Peace Agreement, ended the war, dividing Bosnia into two entities. Peace returned, but it was fragile and cemented ethnic divisions. NATO enforced the peace, but the scars remained. The Balkans were changed forever. The Dayton Accords ended Bosnia's war, but conflict flared in Kosovo, where Serb repression of ethnic Albanians led to armed resistance. Milosevic's brutal crackdown triggered mass expulsions and atrocities. Hundreds of thousands fled. The world, determined not to repeat past mistakes, acted. NATO launched a bombing campaign in 1999, forcing Serbian withdrawal. Kosovo came under UN administration. Revenge attacks displaced many Serbs. In 2000, Milosevic was overthrown and sent to The Hague, but died before his trial ended. The wars left over 130,000 dead and millions displaced. The region's economy and society were devastated. Today, peace is fragile. Bosnia remains divided. Kosovo's independence is disputed. The people of former Yugoslavia live with the legacy of war and division. The story is a stark reminder of how quickly peace can unravel, and how long the shadows of conflict endure.